Hey guys, how's it going? Hope everyone's morning is going good so far. Real quick, I'll go ahead and jump into what I'm going to be talking about today. This is my chosen effects processor that I'm going to go over. This is the Strymon Volante. This thing's super, super cool. Really awesome. Definitely my favorite effect pedal that I own. So much cool stuff you can do with this thing. Um, for the sake of making this video an hour long, I'm just going to run real quick over what we see here on the front panel, and towards the end, we'll hear some sounds from this thing. So let's go ahead and jump into it. First thing we have here says spring. It's just a built-in spring reverb, nothing crazy there, but definitely adds some nice textures to your regular signal and to your repeats. And then next here we have echo level. For any other guitar players out there that use effects and have used a maybe more simple delay pedal before, you could basically think of this as a mix knob. It's just gonna adjust how much of the delay signal you're gonna hear as opposed to your dry, unaffected signal. We come over here to the repeats. This is basically just controlling how many repeats you have. Turn it down, you have less repeats. Turn it up, there's more repeats. Now, of course, with this and any other delay pedal, you have to be careful with the repeats because when you start to turn it up fairly high, the repeats start to feed back off of each other and you start getting some crazy self-oscillation stuff going on, which can be fun and cool, but more often than not just kind of gets out of control. And we'll come over here to this speed switch. We have half, normal, and double. This affects what your minimum and maximum delay time can be. And one really cool thing that this does is when you already have some repeats going and you flip this, like let's say we were on normal and then go to half, the pitch comes way down on those repeats, which when you use the built-in looper on this thing can be really, really cool. I'm not going to get into the built-in looper today just because for the sake of time, and so this doesn't become a crazy long video, we're just going to keep it simple. Come over here next to that, we have the time knob, and this is pretty self-explanatory. It just controls what your delay time is. And the delay time that we're controlling from this is this right here, playback head number 4. So if you know what playback heads are in a tape delay, that's what all of these are. And then underneath that we have the feedback heads. And the time is controlling what the delay time is on playback head 4. And this spacing knob right here adjusts how the other 3 lead up to it, basically, is how that works. I typically keep it on golden just because it's golden. It's awesome. We'll come over here now to type. And we have drum, tape, and studio from top to bottom. These get progressively cleaner as we go down, but basically what each of these is, the drum is the Benson Echo Rack. That's absolutely what this is going for. Most famous use of that would probably be David Gilmour of Pink Floyd. We'll come down to tape. We've all heard of tape delays at this point. And the tape delay that this is mainly going after is the old Roland RE201 Space Echo. We'll come down to studio, and that's basically an emulation of a old studio reel-to-reel tape delay. It's also the cleanest of the 3. These kind of progressively get cleaner as we go down. Of course, once we start messing with the knobs here, we can add in some wackiness, and we're definitely going to do that because it sounds good. And speaking of this section over here, let's go ahead and jump into it. Up top here, we have mechanics. So what this is messing with is all the little components and stuff inside, let's say, a tape delay. This is changing how old they would sound. So the further we turn this up, the more we're emulating that those parts are getting old and need repair. So the more you turn this up, the more weird sort of warbles and little modulations and idiosyncrasies we're going to get, which is very fun. The more you turn that up, though, it can get a little too crazy sometimes. Underneath that, we have wear, and this is adjusting if we were talking about, let's say, a tape delay again. This is basically adjusting how old that roll of tape is. So the more you turn this up, the more high fidelity comes down. So you could almost think of this as like a high cut. And right over next to that, we have the low cut knob. And that's pretty self-explanatory. It's going to bring down the lows. Now keep in mind, all of this stuff is only affecting the sound of the repeats. It's not affecting your regular guitar signal. And then last knob we have up here is record level, or rec level as it's typed here. And that is, you could almost think of that as like an input gain. So the higher you have this up, the more overdrive your repeats are going to have, which when you have that going up against something that's a little bit cleaner, it can add, and if you have this run in stereo, it can just make it sound really, really cool and huge, like it's just building up. And one really cool thing also that this thing can do, and I'm going to keep it in this setting the whole time. You can set this up in stereo, and you can have each of these different playback heads ping pong from left to right. It especially when you have it in stereo, and it really only works when it's in stereo, it just makes it sound so wide and big, which is just really cool. So I'm going to hook this thing up. Let's hear some sounds from it.